How you doing, guys? Welcome to another episode. In this episode, I'm gonna give you 5 tips on how to replace the brakes and give a full service to your brakes and replace your brake fluid. Okay, so obviously you have to use all the time brand new brake fluid because brake fluid is hydroscopic, so it tends to grab moisture from the air. If you have an open bottle, don't use it. You gotta use a brand new one every time that you replace the brake fluid on your car. Tip number one, before you open your brake reservoir, you have to clean it. And clean everything around before you open it. So don't let any door contaminants go inside. Tip number two, after you remove the screen, remove some brake fluid from the reservoir. I'm using a Turkey Baster in this case. Don't let the brake fluid touch your paint because it will damage your paint. You can see this brake fluid, it needs to be replaced. After you remove your brake fluid from the reservoir, fill it up all the way to the top. You see there, brake fluid is all the way to the top. So before we start working on removing all the brake fluid, you gotta start working on your rear passenger side. Then you're gonna move to the rear driver's side. Then you're gonna move to the front passenger side, and the last one is gonna be the driver's side. Okay, so you can see we have jack stands. We put the tire on the front. We plug the tires on the rear and on the front. Okay, so tip number three, before you start working on your brakes, before you replace them, and before you push the piston so you can put the new brake pads, remove the old brake fluid so you don't push the brake fluid back into the line. The only thing you need to do, crack your brittle valve loose. If you're using a brittle system, make sure that you put some pressure before and then start removing that old brake fluid. Always keep pressure on your valve, and then you remove all that brake fluid. If you see here, I always keep it around 15 and then remove all the brake fluid. And at the beginning you're gonna see a lot of bubbles coming out. That's good. You're taking all the air out of the system. Close your bleeder valve completely, and then you can see all the old brake fluid that we removed. Now let's move to the next step. Remove the caliper, push the piston, and then replace the brake pads. Okay guys, now we are here on the rear, and to remove the brakes on this car you have to remove the handbrake with the bolt, and remove the other 10mm that is on the other side to release the tension of the brake line. And before the tip number 4, I want to show you something. I already made a video on my car on how to replace these brakes on the rear. If you can see here on these rear brakes, you don't push the piston in. You have to screw the piston and tighten them up so it's gonna go in. And if you can see, the person who did the brake job before, it didn't line up this little mark straight. On mine is an X, on this car is just a line. But if you can see right here, the you can see this rusty spot right here. It was hitting the brake pad in here, so if we remove the brake pad on the inside, this little pin right here, it has to be inside this line. Okay, that's why this brake pad, it was putting a lot of pressure on the inside. You can see right there, this part on the bottom, they put a lot of pressure and nothing on the top, so that's very dangerous. Your brake pads wear unevenly, and you can see when they do a brake job like this, you have to know that you have to put that line straight, so this little pin right here sits in the inside and your brake pads work evenly. When you do this type of brake jobs, guys, on the rear, especially on these Hondas, make sure that you do that straight. Person who did it before me, I guess he didn't know. Okay, so tip number 4. On tip number 4, after you remove your brake caliper, look at those pins. You know, that's really nasty and black grease. We're gonna put some new grease. We're gonna clean those pins. This one, you see the one on the bottom, this grease right here, it looks really dry and all, so we gotta put new grease, clean them really well, and when you put them back on, put them and make sure that you push it in and out so you remove all the air. Don't let air get trapped inside the rubber. Pin has grease. All the air is being removed from the rubber. Now we just have to clean the outer one. If you can see there, the line is straight now. The brake pad on the inside has to have the wear indicator on the bottom, so it's gonna face this way on the bottom, and if you can see, this is the brake pad from the inside. Has that little pin, so when we put it on, it's gonna be right there, and the little pin is gonna be right in the middle on the line. It's not gonna be right here like it was hidden before. Okay, so we have finally lined them up. We push it in. So tip number 5, this is a synthetic lubricant. Okay, brake pad with the wear indicator goes down on this side. The other pad, regular one, goes inside. But before you put them on, make sure that you have some lubricant. You put it right here, whatever the brake pad make in contact. Okay, so that will be the 5 tips to replacing brakes. Obviously, I'm gonna go now. After I finish this, I'm gonna go now to the driver's side on the rear, and then I'm gonna move to the front side on the passenger, and then I'm going back to the driver's side front. And just when you bleed those brakes, bleed one before you push the piston in, and then put your brake pads, move to the next one, do the same, bleed the other side, but make sure that you keep putting brake fluid on your brake reservoir. Don't let it go dry, because then you're gonna run into a lot of problems. Okay, now we start bleeding the driver's side on the rear. Put some pressure before you start open the bleeder valve. Put some pressure. Make sure that it's not going down, so that means that you don't have any leaks. And open your bleeder valve. Close it. Keep pressure while it's already closed. This is how much we remove from this side. On this side, the piston was hitting right on the edge, right there, and you can see here it was hitting right there. So you have to be precise when you put in the brake pads, and make sure that it's sitting right in the middle, right here. Okay guys, we are on the passenger side now, and I just bleed the brake. You can see there, really dirty. And one thing that you can do, jack up your car from the front, and then jack stands, put the tires under the car, plug your rear tires, and you have to work with the car, not against the car. If your two bolts are really tight, really stuck, you cannot move them, just put the key on the ignition, and then you can move your steering wheel to the left, to the right. In this case, I'm on the passenger side, so I move it to the right, and like that I was able to crack and loose these two bolts really easy. Remove the pin on the bottom, um, and it was like the other ones, it needs new grease. Torquing down to 26 foot-pounds. And the rear ones, you're gonna torque them down to 70 foot-pounds. If you start seeing a lot of bubbles, remove your bleeder valve, put a little bit of lube in here or Teflon tape, and screw it back in. And probably sometimes you have more bubbles than normal just because it started leaking in here. Okay guys, so this is the driver's side. Let's check our brake fluid. Brake fluid is still good, some good level. Max line is around there. So let's go to the brake fluid. I'm gonna show you how it looks like. You see there inside how much dirt we get, and this is all the brake fluid. This thing is supposed to be clear, but it's black. So overall guys, this is the 5 tips that I have for you when you're replacing brakes. We find a couple problems on the rear. Pistons wasn't lined up properly, so overall we fix everything. We keep a good maintenance today to the brakes, and that's my 5 tips for you guys. Brake jobs are easy, but there is little tips here and there that you need to know in advance before you start working on your car. And we change the fluid, and overall that's how you replace brakes. Do the maintenance on your brake system, replace the fluid, and those are my 5 tips for you guys. So I hope you like this video, guys. Thank you so much for subscribing. I've been having a lot of subscribers lately. I really appreciate it, guys. Keep supporting the channel. I'm gonna keep bringing more videos. We have a lot more coming. I have a lot of new stuff coming for the cars. I'm just, not enough time to keep working on them. But I really appreciate the support, guys. Thank you, and see you in the next one, guys. Peace.